Crafty family, it's Dee and welcome to week 4 of our kiddie pool gardening series. So here we're starting off where we left off last week, where we were checking the growth of our tomato plants, and they appear to be doing very well this year. Also, our zucchini plants are taking off when they finally showed their second set of leaves coming in. And here's my large pool of zucchini plants, and you can see that second set of leaves thriving. I'm just amazed at how well these are growing. And then I showed you these peppers in their pools, and they are doing well. They're even starting to get little flowers on them, which is really exciting. And this would mean I should be expecting some bell peppers really soon, but it was exciting to see that. And my little snacking peppers are coming along well, and they are taking well, they're rooting well when I planted them last week. So everything looks great. And here is the overview of last week's kiddie pool. Fast forward, and this is what it looks like today. Now, you can definitely tell that the tomato plants have just shot up. So I think that we need to cage them. So I'm just going to head in to my storage building, and I am going to grab some of my tomato cages. I keep them stored back here out of the weather so they don't rust. So here they are all stacked up, and I am going to grab some of those and take those out and prepare to cage my tomatoes. So I have received questions about how I do this, being that the plants are in kiddie pools, and it's very simple. You just want to make sure that the bottom of that cage, that all of the legs go inside the bag, and you want to spread them as wide as you can so it'll have some stability once put inside the bag. And it's very easy. You just want to make sure when you place them in that you pull those branches out gently and kind of feed them around the cage so you don't break them, but they should fit in there very well. Now I have some zip ties here, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to zip tie the top of the cages together. So being that all 5 cages will be zip tied together, they kind of provide some stabilization for each other, so there will be no tipping over. And this is a great solution if you have multiple bags in a pool and you're worried about tipping over. So once those are all zip tied together, they will be very stable, and they won't be tipping over in high winds or bad weather. And you can actually see here, each one is loosely zip tied. It doesn't have to be tight because they will shift a little, and you kind of want a little bit of shifting allowable, but as long as they're tied together, they will be nice, firm, sturdy, and will grow straight up. And here is my overview of the entire pool. Oh my goodness. So I'm excited. My tomatoes are growing so great. And here are my husky tomatoes. You could tell how bushy that those are getting. And look, my zucchini plants are doing well. I think they're starting on their 3rd set of leaves, which is really exciting. And my pepper plants are shooting straight up. They must have grown at least an inch last week. And here is my pepper pool, my zucchini pool, and here are my tomatoes and a few zucchini sitting over there and my tomatoes. So 3 days later, I came out to check on the pools, and oh my goodness, where has time gone? Doesn't it look like these have grown another 3 inches? This is crazy. So my tomatoes are taking well to their cages. It looks like those branches are shooting right up and they're doing well. And my husky tomatoes have gotten really bushy, and that stem is so thick and strong on those. I still haven't decided whether I want to cage those. And my zucchini plants here are doing well. And look, those leaves are peeking out over the edge of the bag just in a few days. I'm so happy about that. And then my pepper plants are growing very well. It looks like my bell peppers have grown at least an inch or so, and my little snacking peppers have grown as well. That means that everything is taking and rooting well, and I'm so happy about that. So the next morning I head out and I head to those 2 empty bags in my pepper pool. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and plant those blue lake bush beans by seed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to moisten that top layer of soil with some water. The bottom is pretty moistened because I do feed from the bottom up, but we want that top layer where we're going to be planting our seeds to be nice and moist. And then I'm just going to kind of agitate the soil at the very top, get it all mixed in, and we want to make sure that the whole top layer is nice and moist and the soil is very loose. And then I'm going to scoot it over to the side, just a tiny ½ inch layer, and we're going to be preparing that for seed. And what I have here is my blue lake bush seeds I have soaked overnight, and they have doubled in size. So I'm going to plant these, and here is the seed here. I am going to take these seeds and I want to plant them kind of upside down. We want to make sure that little eye there is facing downward, and so this would allow the seed to germinate a little better. In my past experience with these, when they're just thrown in there all willy-nilly, they seem to come up and struggle, breaking through that soil sometimes. So planting them that way would actually help the seed germinate a little better. And so I'm just going to gently place that at the top of the soil. I'm going to place probably 8 to 10 seeds per bag, and then I'm just going to dust that soil right over the top of them and pat it gently into place. And then you want to repeat this for the other bag. And here are my seeds all planted, and I have sprinkled the top with water just to get those nice and nestled in place, and hopefully I'll see some germination in 4 to 6 days. And look, I've got little tomatoes coming. My first ones, these are on the husky bush, and look, I have some bell peppers as well. So this is really exciting. Things are really starting to progress. And now we're ready to address the top 10 kiddie pool garden questions. Hello CraftDee family, it's Dee, and I hope that you enjoyed week 4 of my kiddie pool garden. It's really been exciting to have you guys join me this year during the process, and I think that it has helped quite a few people. However, I have been receiving quite a bit of questions about my process, and I would like to take a moment right now to go ahead and address those, just to make sure you guys are clear on the process and to answer questions that I have been receiving. So here I am going to address the top 10 questions that I have been receiving on my kiddie pool garden in no particular order. So the number 1 question that I receive is, what are the bags made of? So I purchased these bags from Walmart for 50 cents, and on the label they state that they're made of 100% recycled bottles. So they're made from recyclable material. However, they don't feel like plastic. They actually feel like fabric. They act like fabric, and so they actually absorb fluid like fabric. So they act and behave like fabric, even though they're made out of 100% recyclable materials. So that is what they are made of. The second question is, how long do these bags last? So I use the bags for 1 growing season. So when I plant my seedlings in the bag, it stays out in the pool and out in the weather for the entire growing season until I change them out the next year. By the time the next year rolls around, they have deteriorated, they have faded, they're still intact, but they're just not as solid as they were. And so for 50 cents, I replace them every year, and at 50 cents, it's a pretty reasonable exchange. I buy 20 bags a year for $10 a year. So I think that's kind of a good trade, but I would say use them for 1 growing season. Next question is, what is the purpose of using the pool? Can't I just plant in the bag? You absolutely can just plant in the bag. I use the pool for watering purposes, and the reason why I use it is because I run hoses to the pool, so it'll be watered on a timer. So I have a timer hooked up to the spigot of my home. That hose will run from that timer to the pool area, and at the pool area I have a 4-way splitter there where I have a short 15-foot hose going into each pool. So depending on the season is how often and how long I will put water in the pools. And it also depends on what point in the production season the plant is at, because it has higher requirements for hydration during the time that it's actually producing fruits. And so all that will vary, and I'll definitely cover that as I go. But that is why I do it. The water is run into the bottom of the pools, and then the bags soak up that water from the bottom, keeping the soil nice and moist throughout the growing season. And there's no need for me to go out there and manually water every single day. And it does save me a lot of time. And again, I will go all into that to the growing season. We're still in the spring, so I have not started using that yet because we get quite a bit of rain this time of year. So there really isn't a need for me to turn on that irrigation system at this time. And so yes, and then the next question is, how do I water? And I just touched on that with the timer system. And so I will be showing you the system that I have. I will show you the timer that I have and any other options. And that should be coming in the next few videos because it is starting to warm up here. In fact, we're going to be in the 90s next week. Unbelievable, in May, right? So I will be covering that in the videos to come. Okay, so the next question is there sitting water all the time? And the answer is no. And again, it depends on how often you water and the requirements of the plant. What I do is I only put the amount of water inside the pool that the plants can absorb in a few hours. And so right now during the spring, I water my plants every 3 days. So I put in the pool about 1 inch or 2 of water every 3 days, and within 2 to 3 hours, those bags have soaked up that water, and they will continue to hydrate that plant over the next few days. And of course, you can do the test on the soil. You can put your finger inside the soil next to the plant, and if it reaches down 1 or 2 inches and you're not feeling that moisture, add more water. Again, it depends on what your plant requires at the time. Okay, so now talking about the sitting water, if you have sitting water, how do I avoid mosquitoes? You just have to watch your levels. And as I covered in the original video in week 1, you have to drill holes around the outside of the pool 1 to 2 inches up, depending on your preference. And so once it rains or I water my pool, it will never accumulate more than that. And mosquitoes, I mean, it takes just a shallow puddle for them to go ahead and start to lay their eggs. But you want to be able to add enough water where they'll soak it up during that day and there's no water for an extended period of time. Now, right now, we're in a rainy season. If you get rain 2 or 3 times a week and they're heavy rains, there is a possibility you will have some sitting water, and in that case, you can empty that water out. Again, since the bags are placed in the pools, it's easy to lift them out while they're still seedlings, and you can dump that water out if you have an excess. This year, I've only had to do it once. Last year, I didn't have to do it at all. We didn't really have a whole lot of rain during this time of the year. I have also heard that people have used something called mosquito dunks and other things. Honestly, I don't have any experience with using those products. Again, I don't experience a whole lot of sitting water. And you feel free to research those on your own, but I personally have not tried or used those. But I do not have any sitting water based on my watering schedule and the types of plants that I currently have in my garden. Okay, so next is how many plants do I plant per bag? So this depends on what you're planting. So for my garden, if you have large plants such as zucchini bushes, squash bushes, and tomato bushes, I only recommend putting 1 plant per bag. They get huge. I know my tomato bushes last year were taller than me, and I'm almost 5'10". So they do get pretty big. For smaller plants such as bell peppers, banana peppers, chili peppers, or anything that gets a couple of feet, less than a yard tall, then you could put 2 to 3. Now I put 2 per bag, but again, it's your preference, but I wouldn't put more than 3 of those plants per bag. For plants that are you have growing up on a trellis that are fairly thin, say if you have bean plants, or even if you want to trellis cucumber plants, you can put several per bag. I know last year I grew some green beans, and I believe there was 8 to 10 different bean plants in the bag going up the vine, and so that's perfectly fine for those types. But for the larger ones like tomatoes and zucchini and squash, 1 per bag. Believe me, they will get huge. Okay, so again, what am I growing? This is another question, the 9th question. This year I am growing several different types of tomatoes. I am growing the yellow cherry tomatoes, which I told you guys is my absolute favorite. They're really sweet and juicy. I absolutely love them. I'm trying out yellow pear tomatoes this year, and that should be interesting. And based on the reviews that I've heard, they are delicious as well. I'm growing some red husky tomatoes, the Patio style. I'm growing some of those. I'm also going to be growing some San Marizanos. I have had really good luck growing those in the past, and they're like aroma tomato, but they're beefier and thicker. And I absolutely love those. Those I had very good luck with. I'm growing those as well. I'm also planting zucchini. I'm a huge zucchini fan. I love zucchini. You stir fry it, you spiralize it, you saute it, you bake it. There's just so many things you can do with zucchini. And I'm growing 1 full pool of zucchini, which has 4 plants. And then I had 2 additional plants, so I'm throwing 2 additional plants in with those husky tomatoes. And so I have a total of 6 zucchini plants. The other pool, I'm growing mostly peppers. So I'm growing bell peppers, the green bell peppers, and I'm also growing some purple bell peppers, which is interesting. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also growing some blue lake bush beans in that pool as well. I tried those out last year. They worked amazing. I was just so shocked on their production. They did really, really well. And so, and those would be, since they're a bushy type bean, I did put 8 plants per bag and had no problems, kept them watered, kept them fertilized, and I had so many beans that I had to actually give them away. So this year I'll be growing 2 to 3 bags of those beans with about 8 to 10 plants per bag. So I'm excited about that. They are delicious. So that sums up what I am growing this year. I'm excited about it, and things could probably change. You just never know. And the last question is transferring the plants. Now I got a lot of questions about transferring the plants. So once you plant your seedlings in your bag, if you plant your 1 squash plant or you plant your 1 tomato plant, that plant will stay in that bag throughout the entire lifetime of the plant. There's no need to transfer it out. If you plant it based on what I told you earlier about 1 per bag or 2 per bag, you don't have a need to replace that at all. So it stays in there from seedling to production to dormancy or death. So it will stay in that bag. And that's one of the convenient things about this process. It's really great. And I just wanted to end this with, you know, this process has been amazing for me. It may not work for everybody. I understand that, but this has worked for me being a busy person. Sometimes I don't have the convenience of going out and watering every day. I've got meetings, I've got calls, I've got things going on. So it's easy to know that my timer is set, my plants will be watered, and I don't have to worry about anything drying out. So this is a very convenient process for me, and it works very well, especially if you're a new gardener and don't, you know, hardly have that hands-on or think you might forget. And this is perfect. I absolutely recommend this, and you don't have to do it on a 4-pool basis like myself. You can start off with 1 pool, just a few plants. Give it a try. If you don't want to do the pool, you can get a Rubbermaid container, like a tote, and you can do it that way as well. I mean, it's all up to you. This is all experimentation, and I'm just hoping that you take the kind of the concept of what I'm doing here and be able to grow something that will nurture yourselves and your families. So, but this, you see how excited, I'm really excited about this process because I get so much production, and I cannot wait to show you what comes out of this garden. So look, I hope that this answers some of your questions that you have, and I would absolutely be happy to address any additional questions that you may have. Just leave your questions and comments below this video, and I'll be sure to either include them in the next video, answer them in the comments, or do a combination of both. So make sure you are subscribed and you make sure you click the notification so you'll know when the next video is posted and you'll be able to get more information. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next week's Sunday garden video. Bye!